So, quick reminder, I do have the lecture channel on Discord open on my phone, as usual. I do, obviously it's up to all of you, but I do want to use this a little more this lecture. This lecture is all about examples. So any examples you want to see, I'm just going to wander around the internet and break some stuff. You can see what I'm going to break up there, what I got queued up. So if there's a site you want to see broken, I don't know if we'll get to another site aside from the ones we'll see, the ones I got queued up. But when I go to Twitter, I was looking for way too long this morning for a tweet that I wanted to just destroy. So if you have a nice tweet that you'd like to see modified, or a user, or your own tweet, I don't care what it is. I'm just going to do the I am developer and pick one of their tweets. But if somebody has a suggestion, I'd love to do something more because I haven't found one that I really liked that I really wanted to break. Quick reminder, team formation is due this Friday. If you haven't submitted the team formation form and you have your team formed, create your GitHub account, your GitHub repo, and name your team, and then submit that form so I know that you formed a team. If you haven't formed a team yet, you're looking for another member, whatever your situation is, get that team formed and get that figured out. If you have, if you're in a situation where you have, especially when it gets closer to Friday, if it's Thursday night, and you're a team of like 3 students, still submit the form. Let me know that you 3 have a team, and then when I get all the form submissions Friday night, I'll look at who's not on a team, and then whoever's not on a team, the teams of 3, I can just fill them in and do everything randomly. As long as like the whole class doesn't form teams of 3, I can easily do that. But let me know any information that you do have, because if the deadline hits, anybody who's not on a team, I'm just randomly assigning everything. So if you have a team of 3 looking for a 4th and you don't submit anything, you might all get spread out and get put on random teams, as opposed to getting one random team member added to your team. So if you have a team, any information that you have for me, let me know by Friday, and then Saturday or Friday night, if I'm still awake, I'll randomly assign anyone who's not on a team to a team. I don't even want to go to check. Maybe I could break check. I don't have an account, so I think most of the things you have to log in once you look at like 2 articles or something. Maybe we could break that feature though. I think that demo would crash and burn. I don't think I'd be able to pull it off in a 50-minute lecture. That is a good one though. Oh, I might have to prepare that for another lecture. So submit your teams. Yeah, I hope not. I don't know. I haven't monitored check in a while. So team formation, get that in. Any information you have. There are 2 main ways to be able to form a team. Some of you are still out there looking for teams. Either go into the Discord and post in the CSE 312 channel. So I see several of you are still in there talking about teams. So if you're looking for a team, get in there. Or if you have a team looking for a member, get in there and see the people who are talking and message, do your thing. There's also the Piazza post, the team formation Piazza post I did activate for this course. So if you want to use that and try to find a team, there have been posts on there as well. There might still be people looking for a team on Piazza. So get on there if you're, especially if you're just sounds weird, but a single student looking for a team. Get out there and look for the people who are looking for another member. But Friday, same due date as the homework. So when you're getting the homework done, get that done too. All right, so we talked about front-end stuff on the last lecture, Monday. Crikey, it's off to a bad start here. Let me actually do one thing quick. Move Discord over here, so if somebody does post a link, I can just cut and paste it. All right, I need a link with a drop down is one thing I want to do for this one. So we talked about front end development on Monday. We talked about the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, how that's actually downloaded from your site. You're going to have these paths that serve up your files. The user is going to download those files from your server. You're sending them in your HTTP responses. So they're downloading that through the HTTP response. They have those files on their machine, and then they're going to run the JavaScript especially, but render the HTML and the CSS and then run the JavaScript on their machine. So as a user, today's lecture is mostly from the user perspective, but think about this from the server. Users can do all this stuff and you need to be aware of this. From a user perspective, you can modify those files. So like this dropdown, which you can't do anything too interesting with, unfortunately, but I didn't have a better example. Well, let me move my console down here. And we're going to spend a lot of time in the browser console today. If you haven't gotten used to this, if you haven't played around with this, strongly recommend it. It's very, very useful for debugging your own apps. Of course, we're out there on the internet just breaking other people's apps right now, but it's very useful for debugging your own apps. Go into your own sites when they're running, go into this console and get all of the information. There's so much information in this browser console. It's like a whole debugging environment. It even does have a JavaScript debugger, a little debugger attached to it. You can do limitless things in here. There's so much information. It's something we need to, that you really should have. If you've messed around with sites at all, you've probably at the very least gone to page source. But this just gives you a snapshot of the source of the page at that moment. It's not super useful. But if we go into the console, we can see the current state of all of the source code in the Elements tab. And if we click right here, maybe there's a specific element that we want to change. Maybe I don't want to have lecture in Talbert 107. I'm going to go to that code by doing this and then clicking where I want to change. And just change this HTML to whatever I want. Maybe I want lecture closer to my office. You can have that at Davis 101. Now what I'm doing here is modifying my local copy of this file. So this doesn't affect any other user. It's not a direct security concern. You go to this page, you're not going to see Davis 101. You're going to see Talbert 107, of course. But my local copy, after I got the response from the server, got that HTML, I went into that HTML, changed it only on my laptop. But I can change whatever I want. So there's this drop-down here, and when you select a certain drop-down item, you're going to make a request to the server and get the content for that drop-down item. Now, I was hoping this doesn't really do anything too spectacular, unfortunately, but we can still show how we can break this. If you're coding your server to expect only those 4 values, what happens when you get some 5th value that you didn't expect? What happens when somebody who has all your HTML goes in here and modifies this code? I was hoping the value would be like fall 21, and I could see an old previous semester. Unfortunately, we can't. But what if we change this to, I don't know, spring break? And we can change the tag. So each option on a drop-down menu has a human-readable tag. That's that fall 2021. This doesn't mean anything. That's just for us to read. That doesn't get sent to the server. So we could have this be anything. Let's name it spring break. And then we go back to our drop-down menu, and we have that option, spring break, with the value spring break woo. Now, that value, that is what gets sent on the request. Go to my network. 500. It shouldn't do that. So this is a server that's not expecting it. I didn't actually even test sending a value. I assumed it was going to break, though, because it's software that we're forced to use. They don't care about quality. But anyway, I'm not getting on that rant. But anyway, right here we can see how they're sending that request is right in the path of the URL. So they got a request for a path that they're not expecting. It's not spring, winter, summer, fall. It's some other value that we put in. We can see it got URL encoded. That space is a %20. We can't have spaces in our paths. So any spaces or any non-valid characters are going to be % encoded. It's % and then the ASCII or UTF-8 encoding for that value. Space happens to be 20 in hex. So this dropdown is made to put that value in the request, or in the path. So when it gets something that's not expecting, like this, which could be literally any string that your user comes up with, this server didn't know what to do, it just 500. What it should have done is respond with a 404, a not found. I don't know what you're looking for. This isn't okay. It crashed somewhere. Somewhere a dev right now might be looking at this. If they're really monitoring it, they'll be like, oh shit, how did we get a 500 error? And their alarm bells might be going off. I don't know how diligent they're watching this page, but if they are, somebody just got a notification at UBIT that said, hey, we got a 500 error. Maybe you should look into that. Like, for example, if you ever see a 500 error on AutoLab, our team gets that notification, sees the 500 error, so we are aware of what's happening at least. A lot of times it's something that, honestly, we shouldn't be returning 500 errors either. We should be returning 404s. Like when you weren't added to the roster yet, but you try to access the course. We have that as a 500. We really should update that and fix it. But we get notifications for that. So somebody in CAT probably got this notification. They're probably going to ignore it. They're going to be like, what the hell is this? Somebody's just messing around, and then did whatever with it. When you write your apps, never trust your user, and never trust your front end either. Just because you have a drop-down menu with certain options, or you have radio buttons with only certain choices, do not expect that you're only going to get those choices on the server side. You still have to validate those inputs and make sure they are what you expect, because the users can change anything. They can make any request they want, and hell, we can just take this URL directly and just paste it up here and change. Oh, come on, don't make a search for it. We can just type anything we have, anything we want right in the URL as well. We don't even have to go through the form. Here we got a 401, that's nice, because I wasn't going through their authentication, the tokens weren't. None of the cookies were added to that, it looks like. So that's nice. At least we didn't get a 500 there. So anything. User can break anything. They can change all of your HTML. So don't trust your HTML. Once it's out of your hands, once you send that response to the user, they can do anything to it. They can change whatever they want with that. Nobody has a tweet they want me to mess with? I'll just... What's that? Maybe. I don't know if I want to... She's big in political. I don't know if I want to get into politics. But maybe if you pasted it, I might have. But you're giving me an option to say no. I'm probably going to with that one. All right, so let's just mess with this tweet, I guess. Nobody pasted a link for me. So let's go to this link, this tweet. Again, I want to go to inspect element, or however in your browser you open the dev console. It's usually right-click and then inspect element. And Opera is built on Chromium, so this is, if you go in Chrome and do the same thing, you're going to get like the identical browser console. It's going to look identical in most browsers, except I don't even remember what it is. The one that comes with Apple, Safari. Safari is going to look significantly different, and Firefox is a little bit different as well. But anything that Chromium-based, you're going to have the same console. So let's mess with this. First thing, I don't want to sign in. I don't want this banner that tells me I have to sign in. So I'm just going to hit delete on that. It's gone. And now I want to start messing with this tweet a little bit. I can go right over here to this text. And I can just change whatever I want. I don't know. What do I even want them to say? This is where we should probably have a political one. So we can just... if I can spell. If I could spell, I spelled two things wrong there. And I can just have them say whatever I want. And then you take a screenshot, and you post this wherever you want.
That's
And that's the internet. When you see a screenshot of a tweet, for the love of everything, do not believe it. If it's a screenshot, it's probably fake. I don't know. It can easily be fake. We just did that in 2 seconds. You can do that, and you can trick your friends and have them think that, you know, insert important figure here, it said whatever. You can, I don't know. I'll leave it to your imagination. I don't want to give you ideas. So that's the thing. Never trust a screenshot, but if you copy this link and paste it, like if I take this link and open it in a new tab, like all I did was change the HTML that I already downloaded. When I make a request, I'm getting the new tweet from the server. So it's not going to change it for anybody else. So if you see an actual link, you know, then you can trust that a bit more. If you see a screenshot that says, they deleted this tweet 2 seconds after they made it, be suspicious. Please, please. Anybody could do this. And maybe you have your own tweet that you want to modify, and you want to go to, say, the likes. This is just a number. I want 1.4 million likes. Only 9 quote tweets on this one. Probably 146,000. Looks a little better. And I don't know, 831,000 retweets. Then you screen cap this and say, wow, Scala is a really popular language. Look at the ratios. Look at the engagement with this tweet. Scala really is a great language. If somebody's if somebody's believing screenshotted tweets, you know, you can really trick them quite a bit. Yeah, let me just screenshot this quick. Oops. Let me go to our Discord. Finder I need. Wait, oh, I did the wrong shortcut. Oh, and we'll do this. Oops. No, I know what I did wrong. Got all my sound effects on. That's not right. No, we'll do this. I swear I've used the computer before. I know everything I'm doing wrong. It's just in a live demo, I'm always going to mess everything up. Okay, there we go. Oh, shut up, Siri. I don't want you listening. All right, so anyway, the point is, your users can modify anything of your front end and also the subtext of, Christ, don't believe anything you see. Don't believe everything you see, at least.
Can you change, like, the quote tweet?
Yes, you can change anything. Whatever you're going to say, the answer is yes.
No, well, like, if you change the quote tweet to the like button, then
Oh, this one's easy.
would it like the tweet instead?
Well, you can't change it for anyone else, so you're just messing up the buttons for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could. I mean, this was just a gimme. Yeah. Oh, if I can get there. I mean, come on, Elon, you set us up pretty easy for that one. Oops.
I just thought it was a funny tweet.
I don't know what I want to change here.
My son pretty depressed and sleeping.
Easy enough. All right, we get the idea though. So we can change anything we want. You can modify any HTML, and if you have a friend who believes screenshots, you can trick them into believe in whatever the hell you want them to believe. They can be easily manipulated. Please don't be easily manipulatable, whatever the thing is. Anyway, when you're writing your servers, be aware of this too. Somebody can send in, like maybe I like this, and then the like button's deactivated after I like it. Well, I'm just going to look at the request that was sent when I liked it and send that request again. So if you're disabling likes, making sure people can only like a post once, well, we're just going to disable the button after they like it. Well, guess what? They can send it a million more likes your way. Your server has to be doing something to check that and make sure that server side you're saying, okay, this account is sending me a request to like this post. I have to look at my database, check if they liked it already, and if they did, disallow that like. So there are things like that too we need to be aware of. They can send us anything, absolutely anything. All right, so let's take this one step further. We're messing around with, some HTML. That's fine and all. So let's do the similar thing here. I want to remove this sidebar. When I'm browsing Reddit, I want the content. I'm at the wrong sub. So I'm browsing Reddit, and I always got this sidebar in my face showing me all kinds of stuff that I'm not really interested in. So I want to delete that sidebar. Okay, we've seen how to do that before, but let's take this to the next step, and instead of going to the HTML every time and removing that, it's probably something you're not going to want to do every time you visit a site. You're not going to want to do that. So let's move one step over here and go to the console. The console is where we can see all of the errors whenever you do console.log. It's console.log because it's logging to the console. So when we go to the console, we see all of the logged messages and error messages. We got all kinds of errors here from my ad blocker saying, hey, we did this, and Reddit going, I don't know what happened here. And also a nice little message from Reddit that they figure if you're in the console, you might be someone worth hiring. So you can apply to Reddit careers right in the console. They know what we're doing in here. They know we're developers. They know what's up, and they want to hire you. So we can also run any JavaScript code that we want in here. So if we say console, console.log. Hi, Reddit. Of course, Reddit can't see this. Nobody from Reddit can see that. Why can I not? There we go. And we'll print that to the console. So we can do any JavaScript we want here. So let me quickly refresh this page, get our sidebar back, and what I want to do is write JavaScript that's going to remove that sidebar. Instead of going to the HTML and doing it that way, I want to get this sidebar. I'm going to get some unique identifier here, which I've done this one before lecture, so I know this class name, which looks like it's randomly generated from some library, probably when they're compiling their whatever language they're using to write their front end, and then compiling it to JavaScript. Probably added that. I don't know. I don't know exactly how they're doing it, but I know that random looking string is a unique identifier. I'm going to say document.get elements by class name, and get all of the elements that have that class applied to it. I get a collection which should just have one element, just the one I'm looking for, because that's a unique class name. If there are more than one, we could remove whatever ones we want, or modify them. I'm just going to do simple stuff. Once you know how to do this, you can unleash your JavaScript, all your programming potential, and modify whatever you want. I'm going to do that same thing, but I'm going to store it in a variable. Let me grab this. Oops. And now I have, oops. Oh, and I made that a const. The LM, that's a data structure, so I have to access, I know it only has one value, so I have to access the first element of it, and then the LM has my element that I want in it. Now if I want to remove this element, which I do, the LM dot parent node dot remove child DLM. And I can condense this to a one-liner if I want. So if you don't like doing that in multiple lines, let's get the most compact way to do that. Oh, I just logged out of my computer. Here we go. Of 0 the parent node remove child. Oh crap, it is kind of hard to do a one-liner here. All right, let's do it as a two-liner. Okay, so if we run this line, then this line, those two lines of code, when we load up Reddit, those two lines of code are going to eliminate that sidebar. So if that's something we want to do, we want to erase that sidebar, we run those two lines of code. Now again, just like going into the HTML, you're not going to go into the HTML every single time this page loads. Maybe you click a link and then it reloads and it's back and then you remove it again. You're not going to do that anyway. You're not going to do that either. Just like you wouldn't do the HTML, you're not going to run these two lines of JavaScript either. But luckily for us, there's a way to automate this. This is what's called a browser extension. You've probably used these, you've heard of them. You have probably multiple of them installed on your browser. But browser extension is going to be JavaScript code that runs automatically when a page loads. So let's take these two lines of code and write a browser extension that's going to remove that sidebar every time we load Reddit. And this is where the real power comes in, where you can just modify the front end of any page that you want as soon as it loads. If you want, something I never really got into, but if you're the type who wants to get those sneakers as soon as they go on sale, write a browser extension, get some JavaScript running that enters in all of your information immediately as soon as they go on sale, bam, you got it in your cart, ready to check out. You could even automate the whole checkout process. Have it just as fast as your code can run. You're going to get those things first. You're going to get them first. You're only competing with other people who also wrote code to be able to do that. Yeah, you might get blocked. Yeah, I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's one thing that a lot of students always ask me, oh, could I use this to get those sneakers? Yeah, I mean, you're a programmer. You can do anything on on a computer, on the internet, especially. You have a lot of power with your programming knowledge. Hey, what's up?
Just out of curiosity, like every website we go to, we can get the HTML and all those resources. What's like copyrighted on HTML code? Like, is that a thing, or is it just? So
you're usually not violating copyright because you're not making a copy of that site. You're modifying what exists.
Oh no, I mean, like, could you copy? Like, let's say someone goes and takes a site, like just.
Oh yeah, don't do that. Yeah, absolutely, that's not okay. Right. So the way copyright works is, as soon as there's infinite scroll. Twitter's going to have infinite scroll too, isn't it? But here you can see the copyright. It should say all rights reserved. I would assume it's all rights reserved for Twitter. But anyway, they have the copyright right here saying, hey, we reserve our rights, our copyright rights. They don't have an open source copyright license. They're saying we're claiming our right, our copyright on this. You're going to find that on most sites. Unless it's explicitly open source, they have the copyright. So you can't just cut and paste that code, and somebody can't just cut and paste your code over to something else. Now, do people do that? Yeah, they do. But that only really works if your site is what I refer to as poster sites, where it's just the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They can copy that because you gave it to them in the HTTP responses. You gave them all of your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So they have that. They can copy it. They can put it somewhere else. But they're not going to have your server. Your server code is still protected. They can't get that code. You're not going to serve that up to them. That's only running on the server. So they can get a site that looks like yours, but they're not going to have the functionality because they don't have the server for it. And hopefully you're protecting that code quite well. All right, so let's go into VS Code. I want to create a new thing. Why did it put it there? Well, whatever. I'm going to create an extension for Reddit that's going to remove that element automatically. Whatever, I'm going to keep it in that. I'm going to keep it there. And to name, let's call it Reddit. And to create a browser extension, you only really need two things. One, a manifest.json, well, one, the easier one, the code that you actually want to write. Let's do this first, actually. The code that you want to execute when the page loads. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to grab our 2 lines of code. I want these 2 lines of code to run whenever I load up that site. Bam, that's the script that I want to run. I want this JavaScript code, this script, to be able to run every time I load Reddit. The next piece we need is what's called a manifest.json, a file specifically named manifest.json with this format. The browser's going to look for this file with this format, with these fields, a JSON object with these fields, all of this information to be able to run. This is a bare minimum. So I'm going to name this Reddit extension, I guess. Version 0.1 is fine. I want the site that's going to match. Let me go to Reddit to make sure I get all the right URL. I want this to match, which means whenever I go to this site, whenever I go to this URL, star I think I want to do. Whenever I go to this URL, run this JavaScript, which I named Reddit.js. So we're going to say, when will this extension run for which URLs? And what JavaScript are you going to run? The browser is going to look at this and say, oh yeah, this is a properly formatted extension. Whenever I see this URL or a URL that matches this regular expression, I'm going to run this JavaScript. I'm going to go to my browser, go to extensions. You have to enable dev mode. Like, this is off. I don't have many options on. I'm going to click load unpacked. That means I don't feel like creating a zip file. Load unpacked. It's going to ask me for a directory. Oh no, I have to remember where that stuff is. All right, where is this? I think I'm close over here. I think it's in teaching. No, I don't want that whole directory. It should be right here. Oh no, I forgot where it is. It's too much stuff. Hey, we found it. All right, so then select the entire directory for that extension. And if everything goes okay, which it may or may not, we'll see, we should be able to reload this, and that content disappears. So, and of course, this is how ad blockers work. Your ad blocker is an extension. It's running a whole bunch of JavaScript that looks for ads and deletes them after the page loads. So sometimes you will see it like that. An ad might flash and then go away. Usually not, because ads take so damn long to load. The HTML elements load, and then the ad populates after several seconds. So you usually won't see them flash at all even. With this, Reddit loads pretty quick. So we do actually see it, and then it disappears. And then it's up to whatever you can code in JavaScript. You can do whatever you want after that. Like, for example, I have another one here, which you heard before lecture, which got way too loud, is this. I hate this. I hate that Netflix does this. Gives me this huge, it's even gotten bigger. I haven't seen this in a long time. Like a full page ad for whatever they're pushing currently. I just want to see my stuff. I want to go look at the stuff that I want to look at, like My Little Ponies. I want to go see I have 2 little daughters, so don't make any assumptions there. So I want to see that stuff. So I'm going to go to my extensions, load unpacked. I'll show you the code in a second, but let's get it loaded up. Netflix extension, and I want to keep this on this machine because I haven't loaded it on this machine yet. And then I'm going to refresh this. And it auto-plays noise, as you heard before. Ooh, it's my... Is that the right one? No, the last one went so well, too. Yeah, less annoying Netflix, I think. I think this Netflix one is broken. Less annoying Netflix is the one I use. Do it for me. Hey, and there we go. Page loads. That's completely removed. And then ideally, let me turn the audio back on. I guess it is on. Why did it go back on? Let me go to another tab and make sure. Where I didn't mute the audio. Yeah, so that big ad, it doesn't display. There's not noise immediately blasting through my speakers whenever I go to Netflix's browse page. None of that's there. So I did that very similar to what we did, and apparently I got to go to my backup code because that's broken otherwise. Same thing we did before. Whenever I go to Netflix's browse page, I want to run this netflix.js. And I'm going to find, I'm going to look through what I've already done before this lecture, of course, look through all the HTML and see if I can identify how I'm going to remove that. I start by going through the HTML, remove the elements, make sure it works there. Then I go into the browser's console. I'm going to write some JavaScript that can automate that process for me. Then I'm going to move that JavaScript over to a browser extension like this. So the class I want to get rid of, this guy, this is the class for the div that contains that giant ad that just bombards your senses as soon as you go to Netflix every time with whatever Netflix decides you want to see, what you want to watch. I'm going to remove that. So I have this function that getting the class name and stuff, I just refactored that out to a function. And it gets every element of that class name and removes every single one of them. The same thing we did before, except instead of accessing the first element of that array, I'm iterating over all of them just in case there's more than one, or if there's just one, it still works. It's nice and robust. Or if there's 0, it still works, it doesn't crash. And also this Lolo Mo Big Row, I forget what that is, but I want to delete that too. And you can add all kinds of other classes, anything else you want to remove. Or if you don't want to just remove stuff, you want to modify stuff. It's all there for you. And then I'm scrolling down by 10 pixels. So if you notice when I load Netflix, I'm actually scrolled down a little bit. I can scroll up and get those 10 pixels back. Even removing that element, this is Netflix specific, but even removing that element, the audio will still play. It's still playing in the background until you scroll down. You know, if you just visit Netflix normally, you know that once you start scrolling down, it shuts up. So I'm going to simulate scrolling down. to get the audio to stop. Even though I already removed the video, I'm not getting my eyes bombarded. I want to get the audio out of there too. So I'm simulating 10 pixels scrolling down. Netflix says, oh, you're done with this? You're scrolling down? All right, we're going to stop that. So I have all that automated. I never see that. When I'm browsing Netflix, I never watch Netflix on this laptop yet. But whenever I'm browsing Netflix on my other laptop where I have this extension installed, I never see that thing. I forgot it existed. I was watching on my wife's computer once, and I'm like, you still see that? Let me help you with that. Because I absolutely hate that. It's on my, so any site that you visit often where you have something like that you don't like, write an extension and change that. I have to put a little disclaimer here. You might be violating some terms of services, so keep that in mind if that's something you're worried about. I think we do with ad blockers anyway. I'm sure we're violating all kinds of terms of service. So, but just keep that in mind. So I can't just say like, hey, everybody do this. But be careful of that. By any site you don't like the way it rolls, just change it, just modify it. And just to circle this back, when you're writing your servers, be aware that people can do this. They can change your front end. They can change anything they want about your app. If there are any security elements that you're adding to the front end of your web page, you're wrong. There is no security on the front end. They can change, the users can change anything with it. They can go to your HTML, they can run JavaScript, they can do whatever they want. They can have browser extensions like this. There is no security on the front end because, say you have a JavaScript function that enforces all your security measures, maybe checks for password strength on the front end. Guess what a user can do? Delete that function or just have that function return true. They can change any of the JavaScript. I didn't show that, but I might as well real quick. If you go to the next tab, Sources, we can see all of the code for this page. We can see all the JavaScript. A lot of times you'll get garbage like this, a minified library. Let's go to a site that is going to give me more information. Yeah, we're not going to get much there. You can even set breakpoints, run the debugger in JavaScript, really helpful for debugging your own apps. But they can change this. If there's a function in here that says validate password and it has a bunch of checks, I'm just going to say this just returns true now. And I probably just broke everything with the site with that change. But you can just change that function. You can have a browser, actually you can't do a browser extension to change that. There are limitations to browser extensions. The JavaScript runs in a different environment as the JavaScript for the page. So you can mess with the HTML and the DOM, but you can't mess with their JavaScript. So there is a security measure there, which is nice when you're installing extensions. You know that they can't really mess with things if you don't trust the developer, but any user they can change your JavaScript. So if you have any verification, any validation on the front end, that can be fine. That does happen a lot, especially with passwords, but you also have to verify on the back end because you can't trust that validator. It's only for the UX. Like when you're typing in a password and it has a list of things, you've all seen sites like that, I'm sure. You have a list of criteria and then it gets a green check mark whenever you meet that criteria. That's front-end validation, but it's not used for validation. It's just used for user experience to be able to let you know that your password's good before you send it to the server. And then the server is also going to check those same things because you can still send a password. You could just send the character 1 as your password. The server has to identify that and prevent that. So no security on the front end. The users can change absolutely everything with your front end. If you don't get anything else out of this lecture, that's what you need to get out. There is no security on the front end. Users can change absolutely everything to do with your front end. And with that, I'll see everyone Friday.